While discussing giant creatures, let's also delve into dinosaurs in relation to Earth's age, especially since they are such an icon of evolutionary theory. The extinction of all dinosaurs allegedly occurred about 65 million years ago, which is long before humans supposedly evolved on Earth, but the biblical, historical, and scientific evidence strongly suggests otherwise, and in fact clearly indicates we have lived with dinosaurs. From a biblical standpoint, Adam and Eve were created on day 6 with beasts of the earth, which certainly included dinosaurs. Later in time, Job 40:15-24 describes an enormous behemoth that moves its tail like a cedar tree, which immediately eliminates short-tailed elephants and hippopotamuses. This huge beast sounds a lot like a dinosaur. Also mentioned in at least 12 other Bible passages, including Deuteronomy 32:33, Nehemiah 2:13, Job 7:2, Psalm 74:13, 91:13, 148:7, Isaiah 27:1, 51:9, Jeremiah 51:34, Lamentations 4:3, as well as Ezekiel 29:3 and 32:2, is a seemingly dinosaur-like creature called a dragon, which is interesting since dinosaurs were called dragons before the word dinosaur was invented in 1841. The leviathans described in Job 41:1-34, Psalm 74:13-14, 104:26, and Isaiah 27:1 seem to be monstrous reptiles too. There also exist many ancient extra-biblical documents from more than 200 cultures around the world which contain detailed observations and drawings of what appear to be real dinosaurs and their close encounters with actual people within the last few hundred years. Numerous paintings, carvings, sculptures, bas-reliefs, pottery pieces, mosaics, tapestries, textiles, figurines, pictographs, petroglyphs, and other artwork worldwide which accurately depict dinosaurs long before modern paleontologists started unearthing these creatures offer additional proof humans and dinosaurs have dwelt together in the relatively recent past. In fact, the historical evidence for dinosaurs dwelling with men was so strong that even the famous evolutionist Carl Sagan considered it a serious threat to the theory's timescale and worldview. We're going to examine a sampling of this evidence in chronological order, beginning with the early post-flood period and ending in the 1900s. First, we must recognize that before the word dinosaur was coined in 1841, writers of the past refer to these creatures by various names, including cockatrices, basilisks, knuckers, worms, longs, dracons, smoks, gargoyles, tarasque, grendels, oswugum, bax'an, roqueho, octena, and more commonly as dragons and serpents, which were considered to be any large reptile that had a long neck and tail. The fact that most cultures across the world had a specific name for dinosaur-like creatures is good evidence they existed with men. The fearsome-looking creature on the screen was unearthed during 2003 from the Hell Creek area of South Dakota. The scientific name, Dracorex hogwartsia, given to this animal, literally means dragon of Hogwarts, and physically represents a classic image many of us have when we hear the word dragon. Gilgamesh killed a huge dragon named Kumbaba in a cedar forest according to an ancient Babylonian record. Also, impressive artwork on the Ishtar Gate built by Nebuchadnezzar II in the powerful empire of Babylon, which is the heart of early post-flood civilization, features a large reptilian creature with 4 legs standing upright on its hips, just like excavated dinosaur skeletons. This creature is shown on the gate with other well-known animals, so there is no good reason to doubt this dinosaur-like reptile was also seen by Babylonians, especially since it was illustrated on this wall long before modern paleontologists excavated dinosaurs to know what they look like. The upper photo shows a cylinder seal from the ancient Mesopotamian Uruk civilization revealing sauropods and a fighting posture. The lower photo is an Egyptian artifact called the Narmer palette that shows human handlers subduing 2 dinosaur-like creatures. Herodotus, the respected Greek historian, reported in the 5th century before Christ that there is a place in Arabia situated very near the city of Buto, to which I went on hearing of some winged serpents, and when I arrived there, I saw bones and spines of serpents in such great quantities as it would be impossible to describe. The form of the serpent is like that of the water snake, but he has wings without feathers, and is like as possible to the wings of a bat. In 330 BC, after Alexander the Great invaded India, he reported seeing in a cave a great hissing dragon which people were worshipping as a god. Subsequent Greek rulers allegedly brought living dinosaurs back from Ethiopia. This is a portion of the original Nile mosaic of Palestrina, clearly showing humans hunting an anatomically correct dinosaur in 100 BC. This is a portrait of Romans killing dinosaurs in Egypt during 30 BC. In support of this reality, the Roman historian Cassius Dio recounted how a Roman army once killed a dragon. The original fragment from Book 11 of his Roman history, now lost, was repeated by John of Damascus, who lived between AD 676 to 749, in his book on dragons and ghosts, whose goal was to separate historical fact from fiction in the previous centuries. Cassius Dio's report was considered fact by John of Damascus. Cassius observed, "One day, when Regulus, a Roman consul, was fighting against Carthage, a dragon suddenly crept up and settled behind the wall of the Roman army. The Romans killed it by order of Regulus, skinned it, and sent the hide to the Roman Senate. When the dragon's hide, as Dio says, was measured by order of the Senate, it happened to be, amazingly, 120 feet long, and the thickness was fitting to the length." This slide shows a dinosaur-like creature sculpted on the side of the Quetzalcoatl Pyramid Temple in central Mexico during the 1st century AD. Also, in approximately 78 AD, the historian Pliny the Elder wrote in his book Natural History that it is India which produces the largest elephants as well as the dragon, and the dragon is itself of such enormous size as to envelope the elephants within its folds. During that same era, Flavius Philostratus reported in straightforward, non-mythical language, "The whole of India is girt with dragons of enormous size, for not only the marshes are full of them, but the mountains as well, and there is not a single ridge without one. Now the marsh kind are sluggish in their habits, and are 30 cubits long, and they have no crest standing up on their heads." Not long afterward, in 220 AD, Aelian published a book called De Natura Animalium, which reported, "There are dracones in Phrygia too, and these grow to a length of 60 feet. Numerous individuals living between the 1st to 7th century AD reportedly slayed dinosaur-like dragons. The most famous of these warriors was St. George, a Roman military commander living during the 3rd century AD. The slide background features a painting created by Raphael in the early 1500s memorializing St. George killing an anatomically legitimate dinosaur-like creature, which suggests Raphael had a living model to base his artwork on. He surely couldn't rely on modern paleontologists since they hadn't unearthed dinosaurs yet. Beowulf, who lived from 495 to 583 AD in what is now Gothenburg, Sweden, reportedly killed several sea reptiles as well as a terrestrial dragon called a Grendel, and died while fighting a fiery flying reptile. The dragon-slaying escapades of Beowulf are preserved in an epic poem bearing his name that is considered one of the most important pieces of Anglo-Saxon literature. In the 7th century AD, a dragon from the Seine River in France was captured by the Bishop of Rouen. The dragon was described as a colossal monster with a long neck, slender snout, and eyes gleaming like moonstones. After burning the creature, its head was mounted on the church, spawning later replicas called gargoyles. In the 8th century AD, a dragon that lived in a cave under Wawel Hill in Poland, and which was infamous for eating cattle, was killed through bait poisoning by Cracus, who the city was named after. An anatomically correct Stegosaurus sculpture, created near 1200 BC, can be clearly seen in the Ta Prohm temple ruins at Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Since this is long before modern paleontologists started excavating Stegosaurus fossils, the sculptor must have seen a living example to know what it looked like. This is interesting since, in the 10th century, an Irishman documented his encounter with what appears to be Stegosaurus. This is a closer view of the same sculpture, which is obviously a Stegosaurus. It's included on a column with other animals that undisputedly lived with humans, so there is no good reason to doubt Stegosaurus and other dinosaurs did as well. Similar to the animal column at Angkor Wat, the long-established zodiac included on Chinese calendars contains 11 easily recognizable animals that are still alive, along with a dinosaur, which suggests when the zodiac was invented, dinosaurs were alive as well. Chinese culture, art, architecture, and literature of the past is also permeated by proof of dinosaurs' historical residence with men. For example, there are several written accounts of Chinese emperors owning dragons as pets and displaying them in parades. Marco Polo, a famous historian, traveled through Asia, Persia, China, and Indonesia between 1271 to 1291 and accurately described the customs, cultures, plants, and animals he discovered. In chapter 49 of his book, The Travels of Marco Polo, which was published in 1300 AD, he described in detail his encounter with living dinosaurs in the Karajan province. In his words, he saw snakes and huge serpents, 10 paces in length and 10 spans in girth, which means these creatures were 50 feet long and 100 inches in circumference. He said, at the forepart, near the head, they have 2 short legs, each with 3 claws, as well as eyes larger than a loaf of bread and very glaring. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man, and the teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror, which sounds similar to a T-Rex. Also, in the 1200s, a dragon called the Drac inhabited the Rhone River, and the town Dragonian was named after it. On November 30th, 1222, flying dragons were seen over London, and the report indicates their flight was often associated with thunderstorms. This is especially interesting since, while referring to London during a sermon given on October 28, 1860, the famous preacher Charles Spurgeon said, "The dragon and the owl still dwell in it."